Hi, biology students. Well, I'm in my kitchen to talk to you today about our chicken egg dissection. We're in our animal phyla. We've been talking about animals and we've been talking about cells. So this is a good time to talk about some egg anatomy. You can do this dissection along with me. If you go to your fridge and can find a chicken egg, regular carton of chicken eggs, go ahead and grab an egg and a little bowl. So go ahead and pause this if you want to go grab those items. So first initial reactions here, let's take a look at our egg. And first thing I want you to notice is the shape of the egg. Egg-laying organisms, which include ones we've talked about in class, like turtles, some snakes, some lizards, and of course birds lay eggs with shells on them. Shells are actually pretty strong. I know we can crack them on the counter pretty easily, but this oblong shape and the shell, if I were to apply equal pressure around the whole thing, is actually a pretty strong shape. And the shell is primarily made of calcium, this shape here. But there are a couple other reasons why it's oblong in shape. It's this way to actually prevent the eggs from rolling out of the nest in the natural habitat, from rolling off of a cliff or out of the nest. If it was perfectly rounded, roll away a lot easier. Also, it makes it for easy, to pass through the reproductive tract of the animal that it's passing through, and so you can fit more of them in there if it's an animal that's holding on to a lot of eggs before passing them. So it has that oblong shape. Now, if you feel the egg, actually some eggs are pretty bumpy, and if you had a magnifying glass and held it up to here, you would see some tiny little pores. But actually, I don't have a magnifying glass, and I can see tiny little pores in the eggshell. So those tiny little pores are for gas exchange. So actually air and moisture can pass through this shell. So it's got tiny little pores in it. And if this egg, I got this at the grocery store, but if you got this, right out of a chicken coop, if you have chickens in your yard, chickens or ducks or turkeys, and you were feeling the shell of the egg, if it came right out of the chicken, it would actually feel a little bit different. This one feels smooth, but there is on eggs that are just laid an outer bloom or cuticle. And that bloom or that cuticle is actually a coating that prevents bacteria from entering that egg. So that egg, if it still has the bloom or the cuticle on it, doesn't need to be refrigerated. But once it's washed off, then yeah, it will need to be put in the refrigerator. Typically, when you see at the grocery store eggs that are in the refrigerator section, they've been washed off. That bloom has been washed off. Okay, now we're going to crack our egg. I'm going to put it in the little bowl here with trying not to break the yolk. So I'm try not to do that here. So I'm going to crack the egg, and you can go ahead and do the same thing if you have an egg too. Oh, good. Oh, I got a little bit of a shell in there, but that's okay. But that's okay. I cracked my egg here. Before we get to the actual inside of the egg, let's take a look at the shell now that we cracked it. I'm going to peel away here some of the actual shell and show the membrane. I can peel away parts of it here. There is a pretty strong membrane on the inside of that shell. See the membrane right there? It's pretty strong because it has a lot of keratin in it. The same thing that's in your hair and in your nails to give it strength. There's keratin in this membrane right here. So this is in between the shell and the egg white, this membrane. Okay. You could peel apart as much of it as you want. You can see it's like flexible there. And then inside, actually, this part of it, let me get some of the white out of here. Take a look inside this top. Look at that. Can you see that shiny part? If I poke it, it moves a little bit. There's an air cell in there. It's a little air pocket or a little air cell. That air cell is formed when the egg is laid by the chicken, and this stores some gases for the egg. So you can see there, the little air cell, a little pocket on the inside. So whenever you crack your egg, you can find that eggshell. And inside, hopefully find the little air pocket. Okay, so I did get a little bit of a shell in here. No big deal. Okay, so when you crack this egg initially, I'm gonna actually move this down a little bit so you can see inside here. right here, the first thing we notice is this liquidy or watery egg white. The egg white is called the albumin. There's actually 4 layers of the albumin. 2 of them are very watery. So right here along the outside, if you're dissecting this along with me, very liquidy or watery part. This albumin is actually about 90% water and about 10% protein. So here you have the watery part, and then as you get a little bit closer to the yolk, it's a little bit thicker. But that's our egg white. So water and protein. Next to it right here, hopefully you can see it. You can see it through the glass a little bit. Is this, here's the shell. Move it over here. This thick string, this thick white string on the inside. That is known as the chalazi or the anchors. Okay, so when you're dissecting it, and you see that part right there, these little anchors are going to hold the yolk in the center of the egg. Typically you see 2. This one's flipped upside down, so you can see the anchor right there. You see it? Move my finger out of the way. Okay, and then as you're looking at it, let's see here, the yolk, if you kind of gently touch the egg yolk, all right, there's a membrane around it. This is called the vitelline membrane, and it's going to encase the yolk. The egg yolk, or the yellow part, has most of the nutrients for the developing chick. It has some protein, mostly fat, some vitamins and minerals for the developing young. Because think about it, that egg, once it's laid, the developing chick can only survive off of what's inside that egg. So the biggest portion of it here is that egg yolk for food. Now, there's one teeny little white dot. Not sure if you can see it in my video right here. But on this side, there's one teeny little white dot on the egg yolk. And that teeny little white spot, sometimes you have to flip it upside down to see it if it's on the bottom. That teeny little white spot is the blastodisc, which is also known as the germinal disc. That's where the developing embryo is going to grow from if it were to be fertilized. There's only one little spot on each one. Oh, there, I flipped it over. I used my little pointer to flip it over. Might be a little bit blurry, but there it is, the blastodisc. It's a little white speck right there, a little white speck, and that's the germinal disc, where the baby chick, if it were fertilized, were to grow from, right there. And then the vitelline membrane, here I'm going to poke the vitelline membrane, and the yolk is going to spill out there around the outside. All right, so that's the basic anatomy of our chicken egg. Feel free to try it along with me, or watch this again if you want to try it on your own. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.